When researching the necessary features of a chicken coop, many people will focus on the square footage, the number of roosting bars and nesting boxes, and whether the coop will keep their chickens warm enough. But there is one aspect of a chicken coop that is often ignored and could be the matter of life and death of your chickens. Ventilation is an absolute critical part of your chicken coop. The number 2 cause of death in chickens is from respiratory illness, with number 1 being attacks by predators. A respiratory illness in chickens can be caused by too much dust, ammonia, or moisture in the air. Chickens have a high respiration rate in comparison to other animals and humans. It means they use more air in proportion to their body size. Because of this, they exhale a comparatively large amount of air which is full of moisture. A chicken's respiratory system is much different from a human's. They have a primary respiratory system where air enters the nostril and then travels through the pharynx and trachea, eventually entering the lungs. When a chicken exhales, the air passes over a series of bones and membranes which move water from the air. This process helps prevent dehydration in hot weather. Chickens also have a secondary respiratory system which contains 9 air sacs. These air sacs circulate air into the body as they occupy the space in a chicken's body that is not occupied by organs. This air is drawn in from the lungs into pneumatic bones. When a chicken flaps its wings, it is able to draw more air into its air sacs and pneumatic bones. This complex respiratory system is very sensitive, making them very susceptible to respiratory diseases. With adequate ventilation, chickens are less likely to experience respiratory diseases and have overall better health. Does your current coop have enough ventilation? There are 3 different tests that you can perform right now, today, in order to check the ventilation. The first one is the sniff test. When you open your coop door, does it smell like ammonia? Even if there's a faint smell of ammonia, you probably need more ventilation. High levels of ammonia in a chicken coop can lead to ammonia burn or conjunctivitis in chickens that can lead to blindness. Ammonia odor is caused by unsanitary conditions such as excess manure in the coop. The second test is the flashlight test. You probably want to do this towards the end of the day, or if your coop is already dark enough, you can do it during the day. But get a stick and push around the bedding in the coop, or if your coop is big enough where you can actually go stand in it, get in there and kick around the bedding and come back in a minute or 2 and shine a flashlight. If you see dust still blowing around after you've messed with the bedding, then you probably don't have enough ventilation. The third test is the sneeze test. When your chickens are in their coop, either at night roosting or during the day laying eggs, listen really careful and see if you hear any sneezing. You can also listen after they've left the coop if they're sneezing shortly thereafter. If they're sneezing, that means that there are things irritating their nose that's causing them to sneeze inside of their coop, and that means that you need more ventilation. If your coop failed in any of those 3 tests, you probably need some more ventilation. So Jamelyn, how do I provide more ventilation to my coop? So glad you asked. I've got a few tips here and I think they're all pretty helpful. The first one, open your windows. I know that sounds so obvious, but a lot of times we're afraid of our chickens being cold, so we don't open all the windows. Open the windows up. Make sure there's air that can flow from one end of the coop to the other. You need to make sure that your chicken coop has proper ventilation during the heat, also in the cold, during inclement weather. Your chickens need constant ventilation. If the windows in your coop are fogged up, that means there's too much moisture in the air and there's not enough ventilation. So open those windows up during the winter. The next way you can provide more ventilation to your chicken coop is to replace the door with a screen door. So our chicken coop came with a solid wooden human door, and we just took that thing off, took out the wood backing and replaced it with 1/2-inch hardware cloth. That way the chickens are able to get plenty of ventilation all times of the year. During the winter, we put something up to kind of cover that, but generally we just don't mess with it. We leave it that way so that they can get lots of ventilation. The next way you can provide more ventilation is to add fans. They do make agriculture-specific fans that can hold up to inclement weather and large amounts of dust, but we've actually just had really good luck using a box fan for our chicken coop. Just provide fans and get that air blowing. You can also add ventilation holes to the top of your coop. So our coop came with some holes already, but they have these little screens over them that make the air not like actually flow through. So what we're planning to do in the near future is to take those covers off and then just cover it up with some 1/2-inch hardware cloth, and that way nothing can get in. If your coop doesn't already have those ventilation holes, you can easily add them by using a drill bit that's made specific for making holes in doors for like a doorknob. And that's a perfect size hole, and then just make sure you add an adequate wire, like hardware cloth, over it so that predators can't get in. To see more about predators, I recently made a video and you can click it up here. Ventilation is the most important aspect of your chicken coop, and without proper amounts of it, it can lead to death in your chickens. Check your chicken coop and make sure it passes the sniff test, the flashlight test, and the sneeze test. And if it fails one of those tests, then I would suggest you do some of the exercises I mentioned before to add more ventilation to your coop. When in doubt, I would always suggest to add more ventilation. Your chickens are hardy birds and they can handle weather extremes, but their respiratory systems are very sensitive and require extra care. Thanks for watching this video. Hope you're doing well. Bye.